All right, so we're gonna get going here. Thank you everybody for joining us today on Catholic Identity. My name is Carlos Arriaga, and I am the athletic director at St. Joseph Notre Dame High School in Alameda, California. It's a beautiful day here in the Bay Area, and so I'm glad it's Friday, a week before Thanksgiving. I was sharing with someone earlier in the week. I was at a different school a few years ago, and this upcoming week will be the first full week off I will have in my 24-year career. So I'm really looking forward to the time off. It's definitely needed during this time. So welcome everybody. Just to start us off, I'd like to start us off with a prayer. So I ask everyone to please join me in prayer. So I ask everybody to please bow your head in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. This prayer is called, renew my mind, body, and soul. O Holy One, we come before you today in need of your healing hand. In you, all things are possible. Hold our hearts within yours and renew our mind, body, and soul. Although we may feel lost at times, we come to you with grace. You gave us life, and you also give us the gift of infinite joy. Give us the strength to move forward on the path you've laid before us as Catholic school leaders in athletics. Guide us towards better health. Give us the wisdom to identify those you've placed around us to help us get better, to serve our community with our mind, body, and soul. In your name we pray, amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Like I said, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining this session. I just wanted to start us off and just share a little bit about myself, just so you kind of have an idea and the lens that I come from. I've been in Catholic education now. This is my coming upon my 24th year. I've also served as an athletic trainer for 8 years and 15 years as athletic director. I've worked at 2 Catholic high schools. And so I share that with you because, that time has really, been valuable, and those positions have really shaped my lens when it comes to looking at Catholic identity and the value of our roles in education. Let me share my screen here, everybody. Okay. And so one of the things that I have been reminded of as time goes on, as I know many of you have been in these roles or been in Catholic education for some time, is that our role as in athletics has shifted in a lot of ways when it comes to Catholic identity. No longer do we, have religious staff, as many religious staff, if any, in our schools to where we can lean on to provide that support for our Catholic identity. So I share this because this responsibility, falls on many people on our campuses, and in our role in athletics, it falls on us. And so I have been reminded over the years that I have had to take a larger role in really solidifying our Catholic identity in our programs. And so I share that with you because that's something that I think about often, and rather than looking to another person on campus or campus ministry staff to do that work, it is really work that we are responsible for and is critical to the education of our kids in our programs. So the other thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is, just as we've been in this COVID time, is, what is our role? And I was talking with our campus minister, the other day, and so she was looking to align both our diversity, equity, inclusion work with Catholic teachings. And so it really got me to reflect on, what are we doing? What am I doing in our programs right now during this time as it relates to Catholic social teachings? And so I share this with you because these social teachings are the foundation of our work and Catholic schools. And so the one that I've been really thinking a lot about is our call to family, community, and participation. And so that is something that has been on the forefront of my mind recently, particularly during COVID. And so, and I share that because right now I think it's really a critical and defining call to our Catholic schools, particularly in athletics. And it's and this action as it relates to that call is critical with all the stress and crisis that we're dealing with. We need others and they need us during this time. And I say that because this particular organization that has evolved to what it is today and to have these opportunities for us to connect has really provided, I know for me personally, an opportunity for community, for participation, and for family. And this time has been very, very difficult for us to get through. And we've had to rely on each other to help to get through it. And so, and our communities are no different, and our schools are no different. And so what I would like to share with everyone is kind of some of the things that we've been doing at my school as it relates to this call to family, community, and participation. So, through this COVID time, we've really had to think about, we've had to make a lot of shifts, and those shifts, in some places you guys have been able to operate as close to normal as possible. In other places, such as my school, we've not had that opportunity. We've been sheltered in place for some time, and we've had to find other opportunities to build community and shift maybe events that we've done compared to the past. And so one of the things that I wanted to share is we have an annual pasta dinner that is a huge community builder, and all of our teams get involved in it. We usually have it in person, but this year we were not able to do that. So it's like, well, what do we do this year? What do we do? What is the call to maintain and develop this community that we've had and gathering for many, many years? And so what we've really had to do is shift how we're going to do it. And so this past year, what we did is we created what's called a virtual pasta dinner. And so that dinner, since we weren't able to have it in person, we said, why don't we make these pasta kits and we involve our community, so the spirit of this event can continue on. The spirit of our Catholic identity of gathering and community can continue on, just in a different environment. So that's one of the ways in which we've had to adjust and really work towards maintaining that identity of community, was through this shift in this particular event. The other thing I wanted to share is, as it relates to this, is we also have an annual reindeer run, which is another community event that involves all of our school teams to get involved. We usually gather on a Saturday in December, but this year we weren't going to able to have it in person, so we've had to shift to a virtual type of event. And the one thing that we can now do is, not only can we have our own local community involved, but now we can expand this particular event to folks all across the country. And so that is something that during this time has been so far been very successful. We've had a number of our faculty and staff who are going home, gotten their parents and family members involved, and so they're going to be participating in what we call our virtual run. that can be done anywhere. And so it's a great way to not only to continue the event, but also expand our community. And so I share these things with everybody because I think it's really important that we have to look at things a little bit differently than we have in the past to maintain that call to family, community, and participation. And I think it's, during these times of crisis, it's very easy just to kind of curl up and say, I just don't know what to do. I'm not quite sure where to go from here. That we lean on each other, we lean on our community to break out of that mindset. And I know, like I said earlier, this group that has met regularly has been a real foundational and grounding piece for me personally, and has really helped kind of get in that mindset of how we can break out and continue that work. What I'd like us to do at this time is I would like to try to break us out into groups and talk about some of these things. What are we doing in our community? What are we doing to help maintain, to create this call to community, family, and participation? I know for some of you guys have been operating, your programs normally, but we are reaching a point, and some of you, a lot of places are shutting down. What are you going to do during that time where maybe things do get shut down and you cannot operate as you normally would? How are you going to shift in maintaining our Catholic identity with community, family, and participation in this remote environment? So I'd like to break us out for a little bit, for everyone to share their thoughts on how you're doing that. So here are the questions I'd like us to entertain. I'd like everyone to share something in your athletic program. Your athletic program has done to pivot during COVID to create or maintain the feeling of family, community, and participation. And then if you could also maybe share an obstacle you faced in building and maintaining community during COVID, and how you've overcome or are working to overcome this obstacle. And so hopefully for those who have already been in it, have been challenged by this time, you have something to share for those who have been operating normally. And then for those who have been operating in a normal, relatively normal fashion in terms of your sports programs, now you may be shifting into something that doesn't look like what it did in the fall. And so you can get some ideas from other folks. So I'd like to break us out into some groups for a little bit for us. So I'm curious, what do you guys come up with? What have some of your programs done at this point that you can share with the group around building community during this time of COVID? I think we all could use some ideas and some of the things that you've been doing to help maintain and build that community during these times. Anyone want to share out?
I didn't share this with our small group because we were talking about how COVID sucks. And I don't think you can get, that's the first 65 minutes of every conversation. But I personally led, I was a part of small group leader for junior retreat. I know that's not specifically the athletic department, but so I've been a part of a couple of virtual retreats, and now we're morphing into small groups. Like we kind of took a junior, I'm sure everyone has a by grade level retreat. We took our junior retreat and split it into half because the Zooms, they can only last so long with those kids in consecutive times. But then we're going to hybrid it where my small group of 8 or 6 will going to meet on campus on our flex days. So for me personally, and our coaches, we're engaging in, I would call them hybrid retreats, some online, some in person. And I think that's been, for me, nourishing, because I'm not talking about like, hey, put your mask on, wash your hands, stay 6 feet away. And I've also would say another nourishing part for me has been the sports advisory committee that we have. So we have about we doubled it up. We have 28 kids, 2 reps from our for 14 sports, and we're meeting virtually. And then we haven't really met in person just because I'm not trying to overload these kids with additional activities that they don't want to do. But I think even having that athletic department side of it, talking with them about what's going on in their lives and what they need and what they want. So it's been a good way to kind of build that community in a couple different areas over the last 60 days or so.
I didn't mention this earlier, around the pasta dinner that we do. I know this was more a little bit external too, because we had community members who have been a part of this dinner for many years. And this year they were able to participate by picking up their pasta kit and they would cook at home. And so I know for many families, they came up when they picked up their kit to take home, they had said, hey, this feels really, really good. This feels like I'm part of this, this rhythm of this year is maintaining as it normally would. And so that was, I think, for many of the families, very comforting to know that they're a part of this community. Anyone else want to share just something maybe you traditionally do, or maybe that's coming up that you're having to rethink how you maintain your community, how that feel for what you do at your school?
Every year we have a crab feed, and we are probably not going to be able to do it in the same way. So we have some ideas of, if you're a booster and you usually get to go to the crab feed, we're going to have, we're going to deliver it to some of those people. And if you're not a booster, you can come pick it up from the school. So there's like a little bit of bonus there if you're a booster, or if you just want to, pick up some crab, you can buy it from us there. So that's one thing that we're trying to think outside the box here.
I will say, I don't know if they're going to do it for our crab feed this year, but we have like our big fundraiser dinner that was in November, where a lot of the money goes to the scholarship fund, and they did that virtually. But I guess there's some video game technology that you can use with virtual events, so that people actually felt like they were sitting at a table, and then they could walk to another table and join another table. And it was, based on just using some video game. I'm not a gamer, so I really couldn't speak to, what all that looks like. But it was pretty cool, very high tech.
Anybody else? How about maybe some obstacles that you guys have been facing during this time around, you have an idea about building, you want to build or maintain something, and it's not working. I think those understanding or learning those are just as important, so we don't, someone has an idea, doesn't go down a rabbit hole. But what are some obstacles you've been facing around, just something you traditionally do and you can't do it? And
well, one thing we've done every year is at the end of every season, we have a football banquet, a cross country banquet, a tennis banquet, and we've not been able to do those in person. Some of the teams who have tech savvy people involved with them have done virtual banquets, to award the letters and the most valuable players and all that kind of stuff. But that closure that you get at the end of a season with the team banquet, we just couldn't do it this year. And I'm with Leo, it sucks.
I would echo that, Chris. We do those end of the year banquets as well. And we also do weekly team dinners that have posed a large challenge. We noticed that if we didn't host the team dinner, so that the parents would pull them off site, and then it was kind of a free-for-all, which did result in a positive COVID case. And so we have taken those back, but it's difficult. They usually sit together, pray together real close. We usually go into the chapel for the first part. Our chapel is small, and we can't have a whole team in the chapel now. Just things like that have just really changed. But we ended up being able to, put 2 kids at an 8-foot table, one on each end, and just try to do the best we can with that. But I think one of the biggest things has been them to be able to be together in prayer before games in our chapel. That's been difficult.
What are some creative ways people are doing, prayer? Have you guys been, anyone sending out, doing something different? Your coach is doing something different than we normally have in the past around prayer, for those who have not been able to have sport in person.
One thing our football.
Go, Chris. Go for it.
Okay, I was just going to say one thing our football coach has done a good job of, especially in response to the social justice movement, is meeting with his football team and having our religious studies educator, kind of team chaplain, help lead little mini conversations at the start of team meetings when they're on Zoom. And they've also had some students through prior outreach asking kids to get involved with talking a little bit about their life, their culture, their ethnicity, their race, their family makeup, and just as a way to educate everybody else where they're coming from, what kind of circumstances surround their upbringing, just to kind of break down some of those barriers maybe that exist amongst boys, talking about who they are and where they come from. So it's been really, really awesome to hear about that.
I had a quick.
Oh, go for it, Drew.
Sorry, I had a quick question to Shirt Tail on that, and sorry, it's a little bit off topic, but talking about the social justice thing, up in Montana, we're kind of different folks. We're a little sheltered. We don't have a lot of ethnic, variabilities, I guess, if you say, but we have just had a young lady on our team starting to kneel, and it has absolutely ripped apart one of my teams. We have the base commander's kids and the chief of police's kids in our school, and it has just ripped apart our community. And we're really trying to, reinforce the social justice teachings and stuff like that. Does anybody have any tips on that? Sorry, it's a little off topic, but I was just looking for help on that.
Yeah, I think that can be a challenge, and I think, it's not so easy as saying, hey, it's rooted in our traditions of social justice. That doesn't solve, people's emotion when it comes to it. I think, holding conversations with kids, with community members, I think, allowing people to discern it and share their feelings on it as much as possible, I think is a way to try to come to some sort of healing. Now, it's easier said than done, but the bottom line is you got to have conversations and maybe opportunities for people in the community to share those experiences, those who are marginalized for various reasons, to share their stories and what it means to them. And I think that's really, really valuable, and it's really powerful. And for them to be able to express that, I think that using the student voices to help bring that forward would be really, really key.
Yeah, what was that, Carlos? 5 years ago at this point? Yeah. Kind of worked through that with our teams and our football team when Cap started kneeling, and really it started with the students, and where we came from as administrators was that we want to support the students, but it's really important that there's conversation and that there's some education around it. Like, why, when someone asks you why you're doing this, what's your answer? And we're supportive of what your answer is, but that this is something that is not just going to be a trend or a fad, and it's really part of a bigger conversation, and involving one of our history teachers to talk about the history of athlete protests. Like, athletes have been protesting for years and years and years, so this is not just like something that's happening right now. And I think the most challenging part for us is that, like, we hadn't necessarily hired coaches with them understanding that was going to be part of the expectation of their job, right? Like, some people are comfortable with having conversations about, race with kids, and other people aren't at all. And so that was really something that we were navigating. We did, there's a workshop series, as I was talking about, our in our group, but there's some really great resources that are outside of even just our own school in terms of helping facilitate those kinds of conversations. And that was really helpful for us. I'm happy to share some of that stuff with you too on the side.
That would be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been difficult because our one African-American young lady, she's the only one in the school. And so, I'm kind of protective. I don't like any one, person ganging up on the other or whatever, type of thing. So it's been really difficult. We've been working with her family. They're wonderful people. And when they're on the court playing together, they show each other love. It's just the stuff passing in the hallways that's been really tough. So yes, I would appreciate any type of that. Thank you so much, everybody.
Jamie, I'm going to put in the chat. There's Dr. Richard Lapchek has done a lot of work on, human rights and social justice, and he's got an institute, and there's a lot of information. I just put it in the chat for everyone to take a look at, but he's doing great work, and it provides some resources in that. There's current events of things related to social justice as it relates to athletics, and that might be helpful to read some of that.
Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We here in Chicago, I started with some other athletic directors, Chicago Catholic League Racial Justice and Equity Committee. It's comprised of a handful of ADs. We have 2 priests who are advising us, and we have a few athletes from each of our schools. We have 16 schools in our league. Now, we're fortunate because it's a league comprised of entirely Catholic schools. I'm guessing, Jamie, Montana, you're in a league with public schools. But nevertheless, I think there's strength in numbers, and we've tackled a lot of issues with the kids. And the kids have really been great in terms of providing us with some really good insight. The violence that we experienced here in Chicago, during, the social unrest that went on all summer long. Many of us have police officers in our families, both, students of color and students who are Caucasian. So it's been a nice group to work with and really good exchange of ideas. And to echo what Carlos said, I jumped on a couple of those Nomad webinars, and I was on the one with Dr. Lapchik was on there. It was pretty moving. He's got a lot of great insights into this. And I would advise, if you get a chance to jump on one of their webinars, to do so, because it's it gives a perspective that those of us who are not people of color, even though we engage with students all the time, don't really live what they have lived.
Thank you so much.
I just like to comment. I think I've found it's just kind of a standing agenda item obviously it's got hot in the summer, right? In terms of, it's always been there. I've found that using a combination of communication of different entities, like your team leaders, your captains, your sports advisory committees, your varsity head coaches, timing, place. I mean, we're right now we're at that stage. We actually formed an all school committee. So it's a mixture of, everyone from student activities director to parents. Got a consultant, to be honest with you, because there's just some things that we just wanted to make sure that we got an outside perspective of what someone might think or not think outside of the play. I mean, I think we all know that Catholic schools are under the watch, no matter what, whether you're winning championships or not, you're definitely on radar for your decision making and held to different standards, whether it's justified or not. So we felt that someone to help navigate our external constituents and appropriate messaging was going to be key. I mean, obviously, it stems from the internal of what we believe in our Lasallian and charism as well. But I felt like the more people you get on board and the community, the easier it is to wade through these different discussions. If the football team just does football team stuff, it's just not productive for the athletic department. You know what I mean? We all understand the football team is the one that does the national anthem before every game. You might do a national anthem before some of the other sports. You're not doing it at cross country duels in the middle of a park. You know what I mean? So I think we've learned, and I'm just sharing this with you, that we've learned the reality is just using the inclusivity theory within our own athletic department has taken us a long way. And in that note, a lot of our coaches have offered to help. So it's taken the burden off of my desk on a daily basis where I don't have to have Zoom number 62, you know what I mean, to be part of something. So I felt like it's been good for me to get a different perspective too. But I think when you get all the constituents and you start hearing it, the planning makes it that much easier. And then the guided direction is simpler. So we're at that point where the next 3 months, it's all head varsity coaches, maybe an assistant or two, all head coaches at all levels. And then I pushed back our all coaches retreat, which, because I'd rather do it in person, because having 100 people plus on a Zoom is just really not fun. And I think then just, that's kind of our social justice, Catholic identity rollout the next 6 months. And and again, I attribute it to our community wanting, and I'm sure it's the same. That's why I kind of put it out there. What are people doing right now? I don't know if there's a better way, but the all in thing has kind of been our mantra. Like, you don't really have a choice. Yeah, I kind of have a choice if you want to be a leader or a follower, but you have to be all in. And awareness has been kind of our key word. So that's just what we're doing at De La Salle. So hopefully that could help you just think about different ideas. I'd love to hear what other people are doing.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
Leo, would you mind sharing like an outline of your coaches retreat, faith retreat with me?
Yeah, shoot me, put your email on here and I'll copy it.
Thank you.
I think one of the things that this time has really pushed us to is to really look at the whole person more than ever. We've had time to reflect on our own roles and responsibilities. The kids have had time to reflect on on what their purpose is and what they want to do. And for me, as it relates to Catholic identity, it goes back to kind of regrounding us on a holistic education, and athletics is not separate from that holistic education. And so really getting back to mind, body, soul type of work. And so I think that's really where this time I think is really valuable. And even though it's been very challenging, it's also been a great opportunity to work on that holistic approach. And so and I know our minds sometimes just focus on like operationally, how can we get our sports back up and going and stuff like that. But we really got to continue to push the envelope in that way to help with their programming piece of it. I know for us, one of the things, Leo mentioned, student athlete leadership. We started, and I know Hillary at his school started that as like a seminar kind of series, educational series for student athletes, and having some sort of curriculum that can not only just live currently, but live beyond this time. And so, I would really encourage everyone to consider having some sort of curriculum, something that's just not a one-off type of thing that you can continue to do as maybe it's related to social justice, maybe it's related to just personal growth. I know one of the topics we did this year that the kids that I found very insightful is when I asked the kids, what are you guys interested in learning about? And a lot of it turned back to mental health. So when I sent a survey out to the kids, listed a number of topics, the topics were really related to mental health. So they really want something to help them personally. And so that was really insightful during this time. Anybody else doing some of that work? I know Hillary, maybe you can share kind of what you've done and what you've seen around that piece of your workshops that you've done with your kids and community, and the impact it's had on your school community.
Sure. I shared it a little bit in the small group, and I think it kind of came from a place of us in the athletic department being so used to working at such a high volume and getting, producing, that when we had our hands tied and really could do nothing, we're like, all right, well, we still need to produce something of value. And of course, we wanted to connect with the kids. So we put together this workshop series that started late September, and we have our last workshop in another couple weeks, and it's pretty much been once a week in the evening for the student athletes to log on, and it's optional, although we've had pretty consistent attendance. And yeah, workshops all over the place in terms of talking about the intersection of race and social justice with sport, looking back over time in terms of athlete protests and activism, as well as with some of that there were, which was pretty powerful in the social justice realm, our facilitator gave some examples, and like kneeling was one, right? And the kids were to go in breakout rooms and discuss, like, your teammate wants to kneel. Your dad works, it used to be in the military. You really don't feel like kneeling is something that you believe in. How do you and your teammates talk about, like, they were put in rooms to kind of sort through that. Then we also had a coaches workshop series, a variety of topics, social justice, talking about faith, how we bring faith into our program and coaching. We did a career panel, so had different people talk about their path to working in sports. So yeah, it was really an opportunity for us to dive into some of that other stuff that gets put on the back burner a lot of times. Now moving into probably next year, we're going to need to figure out how to keep that going even when we get back to normal life. But it's been pretty powerful. And I think the other part is, like, the kids were more attentive than many adults are on a lot of meetings, right? Like when the breakout room was sent out, like everybody went to the breakout rooms. Nobody had just logged into the meeting and left, right? So that was cool. And then just kind of asking them too, like, what do you guys feel like is showing up for you right now? Similar to what Carlos was just sharing, like, they, I think, are more resilient and tuned in to what's going on in the world around them than often many of us are. So giving them that opportunity to be asked, like, what do you guys need right now, or what's important to you?
So just to share too, what some of the topics we've covered in this type of series has been leadership, understanding strengths and weaknesses. So just helping kids identify that. We've also, kids really want to know about nutrition. So if you haven't done anything on nutrition, that is a huge thing. And that ties directly into the holistic approach of, mind, body, soul, nourishing the body, so that they also time management, obviously this is a big juggle for them, trying to manage their time with all the activities they're involved in. Coping skills, how they give them some practical skills on how they can manage their stress levels. That was another big one. And then learning a little bit more about mental health in sports. So bringing forth the importance and mental struggles that many athletes at all levels face. And then the last one that they like is the sports psychology. So, establishing some skills, whether it's imagery, breathing, meditation type of work, and bringing forth the some high level, showing them that high level athletes do use these skills to help perform at a high level, and it's practical for everybody. So all those things, I think, have found to be very helpful. And we have actually surveyed our kids after each of these seminars, and we've gotten just phenomenal feedback from them on how valuable it has been for them to be able to experience this. And so I think it's just been it's been an affirmation for me that we have to do this work. It's part of our responsibility, and not be just always so focused on what happens in competition and on the field or court or track or whatever. And so that's the one thing that I've learned through this. Love to hear more, what else are some thoughts, or maybe just some ideas that people have. I think that just, brainstorming some thoughts that other people might have that they've thought about maybe wanting to implement, but just haven't, gotten the ball rolling, and lean on this group on maybe to share some additional thoughts or support on how that could possibly happen.
what I was curious if anybody's had some success. We kind of have a invisible dividing line between academics and student life and athletics. We struggle to integrate and collaborate. We're kind of in silos a little bit. So can anybody speak to some success that you guys have had, being intentional about partnering with student life, student government students to do programming that's strongly integrated through athletics? We have a student athlete leadership team. We partner with the Positive Coaching Alliance. We do workshops with that group. We've had the students apply to that program. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. But I've been trying to do some cross, collaboration, so to speak, and to do some communal work together. Does anybody have intentional efforts that they've done, either student driven or student advisor driven, to celebrate? It could be around social justice. It could be around Catholic identity. It could be around service. I know it's possible. It's more adult, the dividing lines. So that's something else I got to work on. But anybody have any good ideas that come to mind?
I think it's definitely challenged, Chris. Particularly, I know for us, we're a small school, so we got kids involved in multiple things, and it's just really challenging to try to. It's a time issue. We're in the process of just trying to work to figure out what that is with our campus ministry folks. I think we're still in the early stages of that, and but. You're not alone in that. You're not alone. I think one thing, like when it comes to like starting off this seminar series or student leadership meetings is having the kids be solely responsible for prayer, having them being solely responsible for a component of it. And so that's just kind of one small thing that I've been thinking about, because I've usually been doing those things, but I really think, hey, I got to integrate the kids more in those responsibilities. So that's something have them come up with.
Good example.
We've definitely, I would say, struggled with that over the years, and I'm hopeful we, as one of these workshops, had our campus ministry team lead how to create your pregame or pre-practice prayer ritual, or they led the workshop on, what have you fallen back on during these challenging times as it relates to faith? And it wasn't just the campus ministry team. We specifically had the student athletes that were a part of the campus ministry team lead that. For us, we have student athletes that are already involved in student government or already involved in, we have a sustainability leadership group. So it's like kind of double dipping and having conversations with those kids so they feel even more empowered. I feel like the kids listen to each other more than they listen to us. So really tuning into some of those really dynamic kids that, if for us, it's like, if Harrison's going to be there, then 8 other guys are going to be there because Harrison's cool and he's smart and he's, one of the great football guys. So I think just really identifying some of those kids that bring others with them has helped a little bit. And I hope that we're going to keep doing some more of that.
Those social influencers.
Yep.
Hey, Hillary.
Thanks,
Hillary, could you share, how you got your workshop going and, kind of the, game plan for what you do there?
Yeah, I can, but also Carlos Reed, who is our athletic director, just joined the call. And so maybe I'll put him on the spot so that he can share a little bit as well.
Perfect.
So we, hello everyone. Sorry I was late. I was on another meeting. We spent a lot of time, as all of us here on the call, I'm sure, has in the spring when sort of the shutdown happened. A lot of professional development opportunities popped up all over. So I was on tons and tons of calls and webinars similar to this one, and just had the idea about providing a space like that for our student athletes and our coaches. And so with leading with my heart, with big ideas, and Hillary sort of walking me back to like what's practical and what we can do. We sort of started to develop the workshop series based around our charism and coming up with a bunch of different workshop topic points. Specifically with the CMT, we actually went into their class and Hillary sort of led that charge with them and sort of helping organize them. But our CMT leader gave us about 10-15 minutes of their class for about 3 weeks, I think Hillary was about. And we sort of just came on and say, hey, this is what we want to do. What are your thoughts? And then we sort of turned off our videos and let them go to work. And then Hillary did a great job of giving them sort of like a leading outline on how it should look. And so we met with them for a couple weeks and let them do their thing, and they led the charge, and it was awesome. But I mean, I can speak more about the whole entire program if you want to offline too. I don't want to take up everybody's time, but I can definitely speak to you about that.
Jim, one of the things that we were struggling with is, to what extent do we lay out the topics of a series like that versus it being a little more student kind of input. And so my initial thought in developing that was to have a very set topics of what, definitely aligned exactly with our school's mission and charism in that regard. But I had a coach who said, you know what, why don't you get the input from some kids? And so what I did was I created a framework of, with some of those topics that I had an idea about, and also some other ones, and kind of framed it and had a list of various topics. And I surveyed the kids because I thought as we're launching a new program, number one, we need to get buy-in from them. They got to be able to have an interest. So I sent a survey to the kids and I took the top 6 topics that they were interested in. And it just so happened, like I said earlier, that the topics that they were most interested in happened to steer towards mental health type of stuff. And so I wasn't want to skew it because obviously that's what they want and that's what they need right now. And so that's the direction we went with. But I do think there is going to be a time where we can start to weave in a little bit more of that, some mission stuff into that. But I think initially to get them buy-in, we wanted to nourish them in that way of something that they were passionate and interested in.
Thanks. Unfortunately, I always screw up the chat room communication, so I'm just going to say thanks live here. Thank you.
I would say the last thing that was kind of cool for us too is that we got some like extra credit bonus points because we were able to bring alumni in who had experience in the different areas. So then it made us look good to say, I mean, more than made us look good. It was awesome too, but it made us look good to say, class of 91, this person who's done all these things is going to come in and reconnect with, the students of 2020 and that kind of thing. So that was cool for us too.
Great way to connect, and all this stuff, it's is all great work. This is Catholic identity, and work that we're doing in terms of the holistic approach. And that's great. I hope, hopefully in the future, we can all maybe establish through this organization some sort of programming that we can all utilize for, and we don't have 20 people across the country doing the same work, and we can kind of share this work with each other and get our students involved. That would be really powerful, because we know our time is precious. We don't have time. We all wear many different hats in that regard. So it's 10 o'clock. I know this was scheduled for an hour. So if there's folks who need to go, feel free. If there are people who still want to stay on, I will stay on, and we can continue to share ideas, thoughts.